Harper, she ready and steady. Organized planner with a plan, never petty. Dropping gems, got my thoughts feeling heavy.
So welcome back to the Organizedpreneur Podcast Launchpad. This is where we explore all things podcasting, organizing, and entrepreneurial growth. So by the way, I would love to know, what do you think about this new intro? So I've been testing a few intros on various episodes, and so I would love to know what your opinion is. Just kind of give me some feedback, would you? So today we're diving into the exciting yet sometimes elusive world of monetization. And so if you've ever wondered how to turn your podcast into revenue or revenue generating machine, rather, this episode is for you. And so I'm going to share some specific strategies for monetizing your show, strategies that I personally used, as well as some hypothetical situations that you could apply in your journey. And perhaps you can share, what are you doing to monetize your show? So let's kind of dive into this, because these episodes are actually inspired, and particularly this one, not every episode, but this particular episode was inspired by questions that I get from clients and workshop attendees. And this one in particular was asked by Tamika Hurd. And so Tamika, if you're listening, I'm shouting you out. And so hopefully this will help you to move forward in your podcasting endeavors, because on today I'm going to answer your question, how to monetize my podcast. And in other words, just, how do I earn revenue from my podcast? And I say that not to insult anyone's intelligence, but I know that I work with a lot of newbie podcasters, so I don't want to assume that you know what monetizing is. So, right? So anyway, so let's begin by grounding ourselves in a universal truth. And that is, there's more than one way to profit from your podcast. Okay? More than one way. It's not about downloads alone. Okay? Let me just say that, because a lot of questions, or a lot of people think that that is the main indicating factor that determines the success of a podcast. But it's about creating real value and finding alignment between your content, audience, and revenue streams, and just finding an alignment there. Again, with your content and your audience and your revenue streams, it's possible. Okay, so monetizing your show is possible no matter what the size, what audience, what's the size of your audience. And trust me, with a little strategy, your podcast can start supporting you or supporting your business goals, right? And so let's kind of just go right in. Let's just go right in. So before you dive into monetizing strategies, it is essential to know your podcast value and purpose. Okay? The value and purpose. So like when I first started my podcast journey, my focus was on providing real, practical advice that my listeners could use to organize their lives and their businesses, right? And then over time, I realized that this unique offering could be more than just a value-driven mission. It could actually become a source of income. And so I, I've been, tweaking over the past few years. And so now my focus includes organizing. It includes podcasting, and it includes entrepreneurship. Okay. So And those are the three things that I primarily talk about and provide value to my audience as it relates to those three topics. I actually call it my BOP, which is business, organizing, and podcasting. Okay, so BOP. So, but here's the thing you want to ask yourself. You want to ask yourself, what is the primary purpose of my podcast? Like, what problem am I solving and for whom? Because knowing this will guide your monetizing approach or your monetization approach. If you're providing advice to entrepreneurs, for example, your audience might be interested in resources that help them to streamline their work. That's one of the things that I do, right? Or if you're offering motivational content, perhaps they would appreciate workshops or merchandise, right? You can merch, and it could be, caps or t-shirts with quotes that relate to, your podcast or the value that you provide, things like that. I actually have my own merch. I don't sell any merch, not at this point, but that's definitely something to consider. But definitely you want to think about those things, okay? Workshops, like I said, and merchandise. But my point is clarifying this purpose is like the first step toward finding the right monetization path that's for you. Okay. Next, one of the most powerful forms of profit or monetization efforts is it isn't, let me say it this way. One of the most powerful forms of profit isn't measured in dollars. I just had to kind of reverse, tweak how I wanted to say that. But it's the trust and engagement that you build with your audience. Your audience is taking the time to listen to your podcast. So it's like social currency. And that is what transforms a podcast from a hobby into a valuable platform for monetization. Okay. In my early days, I would get messages from listeners sharing how an episode helped them. And I still do. People will share how a particular episode helped them feel less overwhelmed. And they may be from an episode that I did months ago. But these interactions weren't just heartwarming. I mean, it did, but it showed me and spoke to me in a way to let me know that I was creating something valuable because that was valuable for them. They took the time to listen to my podcast and they got something valuable from me that helped to transform their lives, right? And when you have an engaged audience, this is far more valuable than a large but indifferent audience. Does that make sense? Right? Because some people look more for quantity over quality, and that should never be your goal, not just quantity, right? How many listeners, how many downloads, right? Your purpose and your goal should be more on delivering value and that it is quality. Okay. And when people begin to know, like, and trust you, they're more likely to invest in your offerings down the road. It may not be at first. So spend time engaging with your listeners. Invite them to comment or email you or join you in your community space. That's exactly what I do. I have a community. I also invite people to for feedback on episodes. Just like at the beginning of this episode, I asked for your feedback on my trailers, right? And so, and those things are appreciated. Right. So spend time engaging with your listeners and invite them to, kind of participate. Right. And then you want to respond thoughtfully and let them know that you're invested in their success, because just like this podcast, is inspired or has been inspired by someone who actually took the time to ask a question like, how do I monetize my podcast? And I'm responding to her, I'm shouting her out, and I want to let her know that, yes, I heard you. And so I created the episode around your question. And trust me, this foundation is key to every monetization strategy that we'll discuss. Okay. So that was my second point. So my third point, and I do have a few points, always have a few points, right? That I want to get into. One of the most common monetization routes that people take are sponsorships. And this is often like the first place that people or podcasters want to start. They want to start by getting sponsorships. And there are right ways and then there are wrong ways to approach this. So um I prefer, and let me tell you, when it comes to sponsorship, what I tell my clients is that you need to sponsor yourself. So in your podcast, you are talking about, your program or your, whatever your lead magnet is, or whatever the next level of engagement you want your listeners to take, you let them know, right? And so because you're providing value to them and that's your purpose and your goal, right? You may have something that may help them to dive in just a little bit deeper into solving whatever problem that they're having. And so I always recommend to sponsor yourself. The other thing that I do recommend, if you're just starting out and maybe you don't have a particular program or something that you're offering or some type of lead generation or lead magnet, then perhaps you're using some type of software or something, and you just want to do like a quick demo or talk about it, and you became an affiliate for it. Or it may be a partnership that you're in with someone or collaborating with someone, and it turns out that they may have an offer and you don't have an offer, but perhaps you can arrange some type of affiliate relationship with that person, right? And so there's so many ways to do this. So many ways to do this, right? And so I can tell you, for me, I've talked about many like CRMs, customer or client relationship management tools, different podcasting tools. I will mention it, particularly when I'm doing or talking about my 5-day challenge. And, I offer them, a platform that I have an affiliate with, not just so that I can have something to offer them, but it's something that I use, right? So you can promote products that resonate with your audience. They'll appreciate that recommendation, and you build credibility, but also in the meantime, you're also generating revenue through these particular type of sponsorships and partnerships. And so the thing that you want to think about is always, making sure that it's something that aligns with you. A lot of people come into these type of scenarios thinking it has to be a partnership with an influencer, or I have to find an influencer, I got to find someone who has a lot of following, or what have you. And so I want you to just kind of rethink how you approach monetization through sponsorship and partnerships. Okay. Yes, you can reach out to brands that specialize in, let me say it this way. So if you're a health and wellness person, you can reach out to brands that specialize in organic skincare or meditation apps or fitness equipment, for example. And but again, my point is there's so many ways to look at it. You just have to figure out a way that works for you and aligns with where you're trying to go. Okay, so there's that. Now I know I said something about affiliate partnerships, and so that is another type of revenue generating avenue, for you. So affiliate marketing is an excellent, fantastic revenue stream, and it is something that you can begin with any audience size. Okay, so for example, for me, I recommend Riverside because I use Riverside, and so I have an affiliate link that I share with my clients and my students, those that come through the 5-day challenge. I share that with them. And so when I share the link with them, then, and they decide to use the platform, then, I get a commission if they decide to go and purchase that particular product. And so, it really works well when you are authentically recommending products that you already use and you love, right? And so, even as I've mentioned, before, organizing tools, productivity apps, I use those things in my business. And so I was happy to recommend them, right? So again, look at sponsorships and partnerships, but also look at affiliate partnerships, right? So that's just a type of um, a type of monetization program or monetization strategy. Okay, so that's another type of monetization strategy is affiliate marketing. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so so let's move on to the next one. So the next one is offering services or coaching programs. So again, so remember what I said, sponsor yourself, right? This is one of the most direct ways to monetize your podcast is by offering your services or coaching programs. As a podcast launch strategist myself, I have found this to be a very, very effective approach. Okay, my listeners already come to me for advice on launching and organizing their podcasting endeavors, streamlining their operations. So it's a natural offer for me to provide this deeper level of support, right? And so offering your services or coaching program, just, make sure you're doing it in a way that doesn't sound so salesy or pitchy or anything like that, right? And so another, illustration to this approach, imagine if you're hosting a podcast on digital marketing, for example, and your listeners are likely business owners looking for help, right? You could offer a free consultation for your first session, and then transition clients into your paid coaching program. So, but the key is to show them that you're invested in their growth and that you have the expertise to make an impact. Okay, so next would be creating digital products and online courses. That's one of the things that I do as well. So it's another excellent way to monetize your show through digital products and online courses, right? I mean, you're already sharing valuable insights. Why not expand on them and create some type of structured format like a course or a digital product? I have definitely used this method for monetizing or this strategy for monetizing. I do offer courses in launching your podcast. I offer courses in decluttering. And so it's just, and really, when I looked at it, it was just like, well, this is just a natural thing, for me to be able to offer. Okay. And those who are interested in more in a more intensive step-by-step guide they can access without committing to one-on-one coaching, right? And so they could just buy your course or your digital product and give them the same type of, results, but perhaps maybe they can afford your one-on-one coaching. Okay. And so, just be creative about these type of things, right? So, another thing is continuity programs, membership communities that are that you are leveraging and for a small fee, right? Because this is a way that you can build recurring income while offering your listeners exclusive value. And so when you use this approach, it can be especially effective if your podcast serves a dedicated audience that's seeking a sense of connection. You can offer a paid community. Okay. There's a lot of people that, that go that route, right? And so I have definitely gone that route before. Now, my membership or my community is definitely so like I have a free community and I also have a paid community, but it is around that community is actually around them launching their podcast. And so it's not necessarily a membership, but it is a paid community, right? So, yeah. So, and the thing is, even when you do that, and this is one of the things that I do when you create a type of community for a paid community, you can definitely offer your members like, specific content, bonus episodes, live Q&As, early access to other resources. I mean, again, be creative around that. But all of these things help you to generate revenue. So, lastly, and you probably see this a lot more, or perhaps you probably hear this a lot more now, maybe, than before, but a lot of people, what they will do is use platforms like Patreon, or I've even seen Buy Me Coffee. That's another platform where people just kind of pay what they want, right? But you're at least getting, some type of revenue. And often that could be in exchange for other perks or behind the scene content or shout outs or exclusive merch, things like that. And so if you're just starting out and maybe you don't have a product or a service to sell, this can be a great way to receive some financial support from your dedicated listeners. And it's definitely a model that works well for podcasters with a smaller but passionate audience, right? And so your goal is just to be transparent about why you're asking for the support, whether it's to fund new equipment or dedicate more time to content creation. And the thing is, people appreciate honesty and gratitude. It just really goes a long way in terms of building that support base, right? So I've shared with you at least 7 ways. I'll just list them really quickly here. And so I said, no, I didn't. I didn't do. Okay, let's see. What did I do here? I did talk about knowing your value and your purpose, right? That would be the first thing, even before you talk about or think about monetizing, right? But what we talked about were some ways that you can definitely monetize um, your podcast, right? And so we talked about sponsorships, we talked about affiliate marketing, we talked about offering services and coaching programs. We talked about creating digital products and online courses. We talked about building a membership or community, a paid membership or community, as well as we talked about, lastly, crowdfunding and listener support platforms like Patreon or Buy Me Coffee. So if you're considering, these type of monetizing options, I want you to keep in mind that the journey to a profitable podcast is not a race, it's not a sprint, right? It is a journey and it takes time. And so what you need to do is you need to experiment with these different strategies and see what resonates. That's what I've done. I've experimented. Listen, I've tried all different types of monetizing approaches, and I had to figure out which one was working for me. And so I've shared, a lot of those approaches based on my own experience. And so just see what resonates. Give yourself permission to tweak and adjust along the way. But you can profit from podcasting. But it just doesn't happen overnight. But it will require consistency. That's how you can build multiple streams of income and grow your show that's fulfilling and financially rewarding. The mistake that I see a lot of people make is that they want to have multiple streams before any of those streams. You got to have one that supports all the rest of them. In other words, you need to make sure that your primary source of income can produce other streams, right? You don't just start producing a whole lot of other streams of income without having one that's generating the revenue for you. I hope that made sense. So I really appreciate you joining me today. I hope that you're walking away inspired to start monetizing your podcast, if that's where you are in your journey. But make sure you do it in a way that aligns with your goals and your values. Now, remember, I said, hey, make sure that you kind of mention some of the things, your offers. Well, I'm going to mention something here. So I offer a 5-day challenge called Ready, Set, Launch My Podcast. It's a 5-day challenge where you get a comprehensive roadmap to launch your podcast in 5 days. And so you're going to see that link in the show notes. But if you're listening and you can't get to it right now, it is bit.ly, that's bit.ly /Ready, Set, Launch Pod. One word there. And then if you're ready to do this in one day, then you want to go to another link, and that is bit.ly pod launch strategy. Book a call with me, and then we'll talk about all the specifics that takes place in that strategy or that program. Okay. So, but listen, if you want to launch it in one day rather than 5 days or rather than 3 months, then you definitely want to get on that call. So I want to share a scripture that reminds me of the blessings in work and diligence. So this is Proverbs 14:23, and it says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. And that verse reminds us that when we put in the effort, particularly in this case, by serving and nurturing your audience and providing value, we position ourselves for real reward. So please let this truth guide you as you build and grow your podcast. All right, until next time, keep creating, keep connecting, and remember, your voice can make an impact. Have a great day.